squatting Slav TV.
In the last few weeks, footage has emerged showing what appears to be an auction of black African slaves in Libya. According to reports, the men in this video are migrants from various African nations who are stranded across detention camps in Libya, awaiting for smugglers to get them across the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. In this particular video that we're being shown, African men are being auctioned off by local Libyans for as little as $400 for various types of physical labor. During the last few months alone, hundreds of thousands of African migrants have passed through Libya and made their way across into Italy and Greece with the joint efforts of smugglers and various European NGOs. At present, reports indicate that some 400,000 migrants are bottled up in Libya and that the detention centers holding these people have been overrun with robbery, rape, and murder. Oddly enough, the mainstream media, which insists on our tolerance towards hordes of peaceful African migrants pouring into Europe, now openly admits that many of these people are in fact murderers and rapists. A recent deal that was struck between the EU and Libya will also allow for the emergency repatriation of migrants in the detention centers, and safety centers will also be provided for the migrants as they await resettlement to a third country. Various African nations have already met to coordinate mass evacuation efforts in Libya, and French President Emmanuel Macron even called the abuse a crime against humanity. This statement by Macron is especially ironic considering that French troops have been actively involved in the destabilization and bombing of Libya since 2011. Other than a couple small protests in France, which ended in violence against French authorities, the black SJW community has remained almost completely silent on the Libyan slave trade. The folks at Black Lives Matter, who have spent the last few months fixating on Colin Kaepernick's bravery for taking a knee, seem to have completely dismissed the fact that blacks in Libya are being used in a very real modern-day slave trade. Their muted and passive reaction on the matter comes as no surprise, however, considering the fact that the majority of these crazy black snowflakes will only ever condemn slavery if the oppressors are evil, terrible white men and not dark-skinned Arabs in Libya. Simply put, the Libyan slave trade doesn't fit their anti-white narrative, and therefore there's really no point in organizing against something as terrible as slavery if you can't point fingers and screech autistically at whitey. A quick scroll through Black Lives Matter New York's Facebook page reveals nothing more than a single photo alluding to the situation in Libya, because black activists are obviously too busy telling white people that their DNA is an abomination. When it comes to the current situation in Libya, black Democrats and activists really can't say much without coming off as complete hypocrites. The black Democrats who shed oceans of liberal tears when Trump replaced their favorite hip black president Obama often forget that Obama is directly to blame for much of the chaos afflicting Libya. Up until 2011, Libya had the highest GDP of any African nation, coupled with the highest life expectancy in all of Africa. The radical Islamic terrorism that we see sweeping modern-day Libya was non-existent under the country's president Muammar Gaddafi, and the waves of migrants fleeing the country were unheard of. Unfortunately, this all changed after Obama and the Democrats engaged in an 8-month war to topple Gaddafi's sovereign regime under the guise of humanitarian intervention. Following the violent death of Gaddafi and over 1,000 civilian casualties from drone strikes, the Libyan regime was toppled, creating a vacuum for the very same terrorist regimes that are responsible for the migrant crisis today. Obama himself has stated on numerous occasions that his intervention in Libya was the biggest mistake of his presidency, and the establishment which boasted about killing Gaddafi and destroying Libya now ironically refer to the country as a failed state.
We came, we saw, he died.
To top it all off, moronic Hollywood Democrats such as Angelina Jolie, who supported the intervention in Libya in 2011, are now telling us that we have to open up our borders to rescue the very same people fleeing from the wars that she endorsed.
Please don't turn away. Refugees are the most vulnerable people on earth. Every day, they are fighting to survive.
This kind of liberal lunacy obviously comes as no surprise, and realistically the slave trade situation in Libya is nothing but another byproduct caused by years of destabilization and regime change backed by crazy Democrats. Black Democrats and activists who decry slavery would be absolutely foolish to complain about the slave trade in Libya, considering that many of them supported the destruction of the Libyan nation under President Obama. As usual, their passive stance towards a matter that should be unifying and galvanizing to their movement has only revealed just how hypocritical these people are and just how lost they are in liberal la la land.